we're always going to have struggles, right? When one thing starts to get better, something else is, and that's parenting. And we can't always control. We can't control our kids. We can't control some of the resources we need in their lives. We can't control, what insurance is doing and all, like we work and we work and we work. We can't control the services they need and all that. But what we can control is our breath, ourself. Like we can work to figure out how we can stay calm through that and meet our own needs as we're trying so desperately to meet the needs of our kids.
Welcome to Book Therapy. I'm your host, Kim Patton. There's no way to count how many books are floating around in this world. Some are decent, some are truly terrible, and some are great. Today we're going to take a deep dive into one great book. Together we will discover gems of truth and encouragement to help you as a foster and adoptive family raise kids from hard places. You're ready, I'm ready, let's get this party started. Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Book Therapy. I have a special guest coming up next, but first I have some terrible news. This episode is the last one of season 4. We are going to take a break, and then we're going to bring you season 5 in the fall with some video podcasting action. So I don't know how that's going to go. I have a couple months to figure it out. But I'm excited. I think it'll be fun to see actual physical God-given faces. Please check out kimpatton.com. There is some book news. There is merch. I have a newsletter, and I'm always needing people to come join the book launch team when we are ready. If you are on my email list, you will find out. As soon as I can tell the world when the book is coming out, you will know. Also, I'm very active on Substack. I've been publishing essays and sharing stories on there. So if you have an itch to get away from social media, come join me on Substack, where there are no algorithms and no ads, and it's wonderful. Thank you so much for an amazing season 4. I cannot wait to bring you more great books in the fall. Okay, enjoy the show. Let's dive into the book. Today we are talking about Calm the Heck Down, How to Let Go and Lighten Up About Parenting by Melanie Dale. I have so many things to tell you all, and you don't care. So we're just going to talk to Melanie and dive right in, because this book is fantastic. It is funny, so funny, and it offers a lot of practical tips. So I want to welcome to the show the famous and amazing and multi-book published author, Melanie Dale.
Hi.
We are going to talk about all the things, namely how to raise our babies from babies to high school. You have 3 kiddos, mostly older now. You are a grandmother. What's your grandma name?
Grammy.
Grammy. You're a
Grammy
Grammy.
and Alex is Poppy. We're Grammy and Poppy.
Ooh, those are good names.
Yeah.
You live in Atlanta, so you've been published in various places over the years, and the books that I mentioned are basically nonfiction for women. Women Are Scary, It's Not Fair, In Freaking Fertility, which is an awesome title. And recently, though, you wrote Girl of Lore, and that is releasing in April. So tell me something that is not on your bio.
Ooh, right out of the gate. Something that's not on my bio.
A secret. Tell us a secret, Melanie.
You want to know a secret? Okay. The reason I ended up writing fiction and transitioning from writing nonfiction for adult women to writing a Girl of Lore for teens and tweens is because I was a zombie on The Walking Dead.
Okay, you cheated. That is on your bio, because
I wasn't sure what bio you were reading, but I can. Okay, so let me tell you, because it's so important to me. Doing fun things and getting out of the house and getting away from my desk where I'm writing all the time, and so I started doing that, and then I was able to meet Greg Nicotero, the director and executive producer, and he was starting a show called Creep Show at the time, and he was like, you should you should pitch me a story because he knew that I was an author. And he didn't know that I was writing stuff like Calm the Heck Down, right? Like I write non so I told him I was like, I write nonfiction. And he just kind of shrugged and smiled. And I was like, well, let me see if I can even write fiction. And I remember going home and just sitting down at my computer, like I could write anything, like anything. With all my other books, I was writing about our life. I was writing about my kids, my parenting, and so for all of a sudden it was like I could write anything. So anyway, long story short, I ended up writing some episodes of Creepshow and then got this fun idea to write Girl of Lore because when my kids hit middle school, I felt like they needed stuff written for them that was like specifically for tweens and young teens. And I was like, what if the characters from Dracula were going to high school in Georgia? Because why not?
And what if there are sinkholes? Because that's fun.
And yes, and sequels and a mysterious book and a body drained of blood. Mwah, ah, 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 ah.
And it was fun, right? To write. It was like, was it way more? That's what I'm curious about. Was it way more fun to write than all your other books?
Listen, I love all of my nonfiction books. I'm so thankful that I've gotten to write them, and I love getting to tell these stories from our family and from our kids. I will say that as my kids got older, I really wanted to protect their privacy and their stories are their own. And so, but I still wanted to write. So it was such a joy for me to discover fiction that I can write about teenagers who are not mine. So I can let my teenagers have their secrets and their own lives. My son is an incredible writer. Like he's gonna end up writing.
Oh,
I want him to write his, he gets to write for himself now. So like I want my kids to have their own stories, but I still want to write. So it's been really fun to write for fictional teenagers and also, with monsters.
how do you this is just a writer question before we jump in because how do you protect your family when you're writing about your family? Because I've had that conversation with my husband, I've had it with others. There's been people on the internet that have shamed me saying like you shouldn't be telling, your kids stories. But then I have the girl's birth mother who's like, you can tell them anything you want. Like I have no secrets. So did you have boundaries for yourself or did you just grow out of it because as they grew up, you decided to, keep more things private?
It's a good question. I definitely had boundaries. And I would say as my kids got older and it's one thing to talk about when my kids were little, it's one thing to talk about like a diaper blowout because every kid ever in the history of children has had a diaper blowout, right? That's not embarrassing for a particular child or something that's sensitive information, but things that happened and as my kids developed, some of them have diagnoses and some of them were dealing with different things. I was very careful. I wanted to talk about those things, but I wanted all of my kids to have plausible deniability that anyone could pick up the book, read it, and their friends have seen things I've posted on the internet or they've seen my books at their, on their mom's desk or whatever. And they can look at that but they don't know which kid I may be talking about. I changed pronouns. And then for Calm the Heck Down, I asked my kids because they were old enough at that point that I was having conversations with them. Like, how do you feel about me sharing this story? I would either get their permission or like I had one child be like, can you make me like right now the way you're reading it, it sounds like it happened last year. Could you make sure and explain that that was when I was little? Like, that so there's a lot of dialogue and a lot of me just trying to protect that plausible deniability so that someday somebody doesn't meet one of my kids and automatically know everything about them or know like sensitive stuff, but know that maybe something happened in our family, but they don't know specifically how that person was involved, like using they instead of she or he, just wanting to make sure that no one can tell who is who. I didn't change any details of any of the stories, just more protection of who things were happening to. Yeah. Um, so I feel really good. Like I don't feel like my kids could read anything and then be like, I can't believe you shared that. So
Well, that
and
is
then
a
and
good
the same
place
with
to
like
be.
Instagram and stuff. I ask their permission before I post, which means I really don't post as much about my kids. So, and they're like super grown at this point, so they have one of them has their own account, one of them doesn't care about social media, which is great.
So I was going to bring up The Walking Dead because my brother last night we were talking about, I was super excited about being able to interview you. And so I was saying, she loves Jesus and zombies, and she was a zombie on The Walking Dead. And he's like, is it because children are like vampires and they suck the life out of us? Is there a
I do like
correlation
I
there?
do like vampires. Yeah. You know, I I love monsters and I always have. When I was in second grade, that was the first time I ever read a spooky story that I can recall. There was at my school library, there was a book called In a Dark, Dark Room, and it's so good. And so, like, if your kids like spooky stories, it's like gothic and it's so fun. And the first story in that book is about a girl named Jenny who has a green ribbon around her neck. And you know, and I was reading like Babysitter's Club, Nancy Drew. I love like all that, but I'm like, okay, Jenny with this green ribbon. And she grows up, she gets married, and at the end of this is a spoiler alert, but this book is like 40 years old, guys. So she takes the ribbon off on her wedding night. And the last line of the story is, and Jenny's head fell off. And
Jenny!
I was hooked. I was hooked. I was like, oh my gosh, the feeling I got in there, that like it just tapped into this like emotion that it was so good. And then I had a friend named Jenny, so I immediately told her she did not appreciate those nightmares. But I just fell in love with spooky stories and the paranormal, like obviously someone can't go around with their head held on by a ribbon their whole lives. That's not real. But I fell in love with this idea of paranormal fiction, the supernatural. I've always been a fan. Yeah. So
Well,
it's been really fun to get to write it with Girl of Lore.
I think that moving forward, I think that you are going to write more. I mean, you know yourself better than anybody, and probably experiencing the writing of this fiction has probably awakened something where you're like, I can't ever go back.
Well, and even with Calm the Heck Down, you can tell that like my heart's there because every chapter I open with a quote from a horror movie. Because parenting feels that way, right? Like I start the book with a quote from The Fly, like classic horror movies, like quote from The Fly, be afraid, be very afraid.
Which is, yeah, it does relate to parenting. And I did
Yeah.
feel like it's funny because I read Girl of Lore and then I reread Calm the Heck Down, or I was reading them kind of both at the same time. And I noticed the parallel of like, oh, I see what she's doing here.
My heart's there.
Okay, on to
Parenting can be
business.
scary.
Parenting is very scary, but I mean, that leads us to our first point, which is like, how do we raise them from babies to high school, really? Number one, don't worry. And you say, I worry my kids will be monsters, but over and over they reveal how incredible they are. Somehow they've risen above my crippling sarcasm to become lovely human beings.
Mm.
Talk to me about what we can worry about as parents of kids from hard places and what we should not worry about.
Ooh. And let me say this. The book is called Calm the Heck Down because it's the thing I've had to learn the most. When my agent came to me, it was like, "Hey, I think you should write a parenting book." I was like, What have I had to learn that I can offer people?" And it is to calm down because I don't start in a calm place. Like I'm not a naturally calm person. So, so I definitely think we shouldn't worry, but that's not saying that I don't worry. I mean, I think we all worry. I think with parenting kids from hard places, um, one thing that I always struggled with was like, is this something anybody would go through, or is this something that has happened because of early childhood trauma? So, because trying to figure out how to address it. So I think the thing for me that I just kept doing is recognizing this is bigger than me and finding, creating a team of people to help, um, be that medical professionals, mental health professionals, spiritual leaders. Like I never felt like I could do it myself. And that I think helped me with the worry when I knew that I had the right people with the letters after their names helping us through the things we were going through. That was really key, was just knowing when I was doing all I could do and when I needed help. And that I think was the biggest thing that helped us through.
You talk a lot about being a mom of all the things, like a special needs mom, IVF mom, infertility mom, adoptive mom, transracial adoption mom, and also going through all of the programs like occupational therapy, physical therapy, IEPs, diagnoses. Those are, I remember the page at the bottom right corner where you say, like, I don't know all the things, but I've been through all the things. So, talk to me about being a mama of all of those titles and what it felt like just to fight and advocate for your children and how that kind of helped relieve the worry because you're doing the best you can to juggle all the things in the interest of your child.
Hmm. It can feel super isolating, right? It can feel like when other people aren't dealing with the same things, it can feel. I remember walking out of a really difficult IEP meeting when my kids were younger and feeling so defeated and so frustrated, like I just struggling to try to help my kid get the services they needed, and getting a text from a friend talking about how their kid uh, was too gifted for the gifted program. Okay. Like
Oh
that's
gosh.
great. I love the gifted program. But in that moment, I just felt this crushing weight of like, oh my gosh, no one understands. No one understands what we're going through. We did in-home therapy for a while, and we had one in-home therapist be like, I mean, you guys have more behaviors going on here than I've seen in some residential homes. Like it felt overwhelming. And so one thing that really helped me through that and the feeling of isolation was finding other people who were also struggling. So other parents who had kids from hard places or kids with really hard diagnoses. And I'm still friends with some of those people to this day, even as my kids are older, and we talk about even having older kids and going through things even with the older kids, and having someone else that you could just text or call up and say something that would horrify the the normal person, that just feels so daunting, and knowing that someone else is like right in that place and has been there and has ideas, and that you can just um there's no need to like explain it. You don't have to worry about judgment. I think having friends like that were really key for me in getting through some of these really difficult things that we went through as a family.
Hmm.
And it's funny just talking about it, Kim. I feel my body
Yeah.
getting tense. You can
Yep.
probably see it. You see me in the video. Like I feel my body getting tense just thinking about some of the difficult things that went on in our home
Hmm.
that felt so scary and so hopeless with some of my people. And yeah, so having people who could be there for me, who understood at like a personal level, and then having those experts who could also surround our family and give us hope. For there's always something to do.
Hmm.
There's always something. I spent a year researching a way to help one of my kids, and just hit wall after wall after wall after wall after wall, and praying and researching. And there are a handful of things in my life where I feel like, oh yeah, God is real. Like, like you start to like have doubts, and there are a handful of moments where I can just look to that moment and think like he was working even in that. And that was one of them, of finally reaching out to a friend, and finding out about a resource that could help. And it was because of that friend network that I was able to get my kid the help that they needed. It can feel really isolating. So finding other people is helpful. And that's, the great thing about you having this podcast, the great thing about reading books together is making those connections, be they through the internet or through our neighborhood or wherever it is, just finding those people who can help us feel less alone.
Hmm. Sometimes it just takes so long, though. Like you're
Mhm.
in the season of the researching.
Yeah.
And I mean, we have Chat GPT now, which is amazing and also dangerous because Chad, we call him Chad, he's a part of our family. He is like helping me through all of these little moments where I'm like, okay, is this the sensory thing? Like I'm seeing this behavior. Is it related to sensory? Is it related to ADHD? Is it related to trauma? Is it related to hunger and, like not diagnosing, but in the moment, I'm trying to figure out and pinpoint exactly what my daughter needs. And I just need all the help I can get. And sometimes it just takes like months of banging against the wall to eventually unlock something.
That's what it's like, unlocking. Yeah. Yeah. And then right when you get that taken care of, it's like whack-a-mole, something else happens.
Always.
But so that's where I think, and my heart behind Calm the Heck Down is we're always gonna have struggles, right? When one thing starts to get better, something else is, and that's parenting. Um, and we can't always control. We can't control our kids. We can't control some of the resources we need in their lives. We can't control, what insurance is doing and all, like we work and we work and we work. We can't control the services they need and all that. But we can control, what we can control is our breath, ourself. Like we can work to figure out how we can stay calm through that and meet our own needs as we're trying so desperately to meet the needs of our kids. And that to me was really important. um, Figuring out how I can not fall apart as my kid is falling apart.
Yeah. Regulation. Oh, regulation. The second thing we're going to talk about is don't freak out. We've kind of already talked about this a little bit, but you say your identity is not wrapped up in however our kids turn out. You talking about not having control. As an adoptive mama, I do feel the responsibility of how my kids are going to turn out, while at the same time, I have to be careful that I'm not blaming things or other people for the way my kids turn out. So, talk to me about not freaking out in the moment when things do feel out of control. And also, as it pertains to having middle school kids from hard places, teenagers who are coming to us with very delicate conversations. I really love it in the book how you talk about not freaking out when they come to you, because that's going to, your demeanor and the way you handle things is going to determine what they come to you with in the future.
Yeah, it's really key to be level and to just receive all of that. I remember one of my kids coming to me and telling me something and them being surprised at how calm I stayed. I do not take credit for that. I'm just saying that I do practice really hard what I preach, and I think it's so essential to stay calm, because you do want them to share things. And so one thing that I continue to tell myself is laughter makes us brave, and so I really try to cultivate a home filled with laughter. I try to cultivate my own sense of humor and to laugh, not laughing at our kids, just but
Well,
maybe on our own, like
maybe
not.
after bedtime.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe with your partner. Yeah,
Yes.
But no, laughter makes us brave, and cultivating that house filled with laughter helped us a lot, dealing with the very serious things that we've dealt with. Um, and we can't control how our kids turn out, and I do have a child who is making choices that I would not have wanted this child to make, and it has been very painful. And it's hard. I think the hardest thing is to watch someone you love hurt themselves. And but I think that I am able, and I have a wonderful therapist. So I think it's important for us to have our own, mental health services. But I think learning to peel away my life and my choices from that of my child and know that like I can find peace in knowing that their choices, that's not on me. We're, everyone listening right now, we're all doing everything we can to raise our kids and give them the best leg up they can, to give them a wonderful childhood. We're all doing everything we can. But at the end of the day, as they grow up, their choices are on them, not us. That is a hard pill to swallow sometimes when you see someone you love hurting themselves. But I will tell you, you can find peace in being able to separate that out and recognize what can I control, what can't I control, and focusing on the part that you can control. You can control your reaction, you can control your love, you can control your breath, right? Uh, but you cannot control ultimately at the end of the day what they choose. It's hard.
That is hard. I read something about enmeshment where you're like so up in each other's business where,
Mm,
my children's choices affect the way I view myself. And, you know, your identity is not wrapped up in however your kids turn out. How do you separate your identity from your children's choices?
mm. Well, okay, I think there's a spiritual component to that for sure. Um, and and so focusing on who God has made me to be has been a huge part of my process for recognizing my identity. And again, just their choices are their choices. I am a good mom. And whether or not they are doing what I wish they were doing doesn't change the fact that I'm a good mom and my identity is a good mom. And we all make mistakes, but we're all working to be good moms. And so, one thing that helped me through that is EMDR, therapy, which I talk a little bit about in Calm the Heck Down. EMDR has been a really important therapy for myself and for my kids.
Mm.
And it helps process trauma, and it helped me process some stuff related to some adoption things that happened where, I was having some secondary trauma and was believing lies that I was a bad mom. And it actually helped me with triggers.
Mm.
It feels like magic. It feels like something out of one of my, like a paranormal book, but it is not magic. It is science. It's shocking how the brain can heal itself to where now, when I think back to some of the things that happened through our adoptions that were so triggering for me, I now think to myself, because of EMDR, I am a good mom and I know what's true. Like my brain has been hardwired to go back to that. And I can picture one of the images that I worked through with EMDR was on an airplane, bringing one of my kids home, and now when I picture that airplane, I used to be triggered and immediately spiral into thinking I'm a bad mom. I now immediately go to I am a good mom and I know it's true. And that's because of EMDR. That's because of just great therapy. And so I can't say enough about how helpful that's been. So if you're feeling like you're triggered and you're spiraling into this I'm a bad mom, there is hope. There is hope because I used to go through that, and the EMDR has really helped me for that.
Yeah, changing your mindset. And
Hmm.
I do think it is the truth and the lies. We believe lies about ourselves. And I asked about the identity because I've been thinking about that lately, what we believe about ourselves and especially what we believe about ourselves as moms is going to come out in the way I behave and raise my children.
Mm.
And if I'm not careful, I will live those lies instead of living the truth. So yeah, thank you for that.
Mm.
The last one is don't doubt yourself. And you said, I never thought I'd doubt myself so much. That's a short quote there. The quote is much longer than that. I wonder if you can expound on that as far as like when we become parents. And I cannot say enough about like how funny your book is and how you infuse the truth and the beauty of motherhood with just like just just the best phrasing. Um, Thank you so much for making me laugh through like the whole book. That's a gift that God has given you to make mamas like me who are so stick up my butt, panties in a bunch about parenting. And I needed you. I needed you. And that's why I came back to your book. I read it in 2021 and then it wouldn't leave my brain. I told you before the show started that I reread it and I don't reread books. But I kept thinking, I need to calm down. I know that there's a solution to my freaking out and my doubting and my worrying. I just need to read that book, laugh, not feel alone, and take your practical tips. So, talk to mamas about doubting ourselves and how as parents through the whole journey, we really can have confidence as we raise our kids.
Mm. Oh, doubt. Doubt is really hard. You said so much, and my brain is like, processing everything you just said. It's thank you. First of all, just thank you so much for it means so much to me that this book has helped you. And um it's just I felt like I kind of poured out everything I'd learned through parenting. And each chapter has like some practical tips at the end. And just to hear you say all that, just it just really means a lot. So first of all, I'm verklempt. Thank you. So okay, doubt. Whew. One thing that it's an active thing, and I talk about this in the book. One thing that I do, and I've done this since my first child was teeny, was I practice what I call palms up parenting, where I feel like I've got my gripping my hands kind of in fists, and I'm like clinging to control and trying so hard to like steer the ship on my own. And I will just release my palms and hold them up and say, God, they're yours. And I do that with a breath. So it's kind of like a little breath prayer. Like when I'm squeezing my hands or I'm freaking out, and not sure what's going to happen, and I don't know the future, and I'm beginning to spin out of control, I will take a breath and I will open up my palms and breathe out and say, God, they're yours. And that is just an active thing. And it's funny because I started doing that when my first one was little, and I still do it. My kids are grown adults, and I'm still doing that. And that has helped me a tremendous amount to just be calm in those moments. When it comes to doubt, I mean, when I think of doubt, I think of the dad in Mark 9. He says, I believe, Lord, help me in my unbelief. And to me, that's my parenting in a nutshell. Like, help me in my unbelief. Like, I have so much doubt. I doubt that the kids are going to be okay. I doubt that I'm going to be okay. I doubt that God is who he says he is. Like, I doubt all of it all the time. But that is kind of a continued prayer for me. I believe, help me in my unbelief, because we're all going to have unbelief. And I love the model of that dad in Mark 9. It's like, I'm not alone. Even this guy in the Bible was struggling with belief and doubt. And our kids doubt too. And so I think it's okay. It's okay to tell them that we doubt also. It's okay to doubt together. Yeah.
Laughter makes us brave and doubt makes us dependent on the Lord. So
It
it's a
really
win.
does. It really does. And again, going back to like you can't control what you can't control. You can only control a few things. So focus on the things you can control and let everything else go. Um, some things that help me a lot is just lowering my expectations. Um, I think we have these expectations for how our families are supposed to look, how our kids are supposed to look, how we're supposed to look as moms. And I just have to lower my expectations. And sometimes I'll think they're lower, and then something happens and I'm like, oh, not low enough. Should have lowered them further. They can go lower. They can go lower. So like that helps me, I figure out my non-negotiables, the things that have to happen, but then everything else you can kind of loosen up about.
At the end of the chapters, you have these amazing practical tips, and some of them really stuck out to me. One of them was you're not above bribery, and the way you paid your kids to watch sermons online or to read their Bible or to do chores. Like, you are like, hey, bribery is a parenting tool, and let's all, hop on this bandwagon and quit shaming bribery. And then also, just the fact that you talked about yelling in such a real way. I think that so many people would disagree with you, but I did not. I did not disagree with you. I was on board with everything you said about
We have
yelling.
a loud house. It's not like, I mean, there's obviously bad kind of yelling. I don't condone, I mean, verbal abuse is bad. And I say that, like, not that kind of yelling, but we have a loud house, and that's okay.
Period.
The end. It is. It's okay. Like, um, I mean, we just are loud people. And I think, that's every family has a different tone. And some houses are just really quiet, and everybody just is they're quiet, they're calm. And we don't have calm kids. We are not calm people. We both my husband and I work from home. We're all here. We have to interact a lot, and sometimes we raise our voices. But we also apologize a lot. We're good at apologizing. So, you know, it's all good.
So now that they're grown-ish, I'm just curious as we wrap this up, what would you say to yourself as younger Mama Melanie, or after raising this eclectic group of children? How has God shaped you, formed you, sharpened you, and like what's a beautiful part of motherhood that you're really clinging to now that they are grown and raised?
Ooh. Um, I I'm prioritizing staying in relationship, which can be challenging when they're adults, and they don't have to call. They don't have to talk to you or like so I'm really prioritizing what does it look like to stay in relationship? What does it look like to maintain some kind of influence in your child's life as they're older? And that looks much more like conversations rather than ultimatums or rules or judgment. So really focusing on the quality of our conversations, grace upon grace upon grace upon grace, just offering so much grace to them and myself, um, affirming their good choices, and my husband's really good at that too. Fighting for those relationships, I think it is harder when they are no longer sitting at your kitchen table every night because they have a life of their own. It's harder, but it's so important. And I think the foundation that we built over all of the years of raising our kids, has helped us have the the relationships that we have now. And that even though we may not agree on everything, even though my kids may live their lives differently than the way I live my life, that we can always come back to conversation and respect and relationship, because of the foundation, because of all the work that we did in all of those conversations growing up. Conversation, I mean, it's like parenting is just a series of conversations. Some are louder than others. If you don't like the stage your kids are in now, give it a second. It'll change. They don't stay in the same stage for long. It keeps changing. And I think that's one thing I really appreciate about parenting is you never get bored. There's always something new to tinker with. And it doesn't have to look magical all the time. It doesn't. And if the internet is telling you that it does, maybe spend less time on the internet.
That is perfect.
Mm.
Perfect saying. So we talked about Girl of Lore. What are your book release plans for April 21st or the week of or the month of or today? Like what are you prepping for and how excited are you to release this book into the world?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to release this book. And so in this book, the main character and her younger sister are both adopted. So for all of you listening who have kids who are adopted, they have two very different adoption stories, just like the kids that I have. And some of they struggle with this idea of belonging and identity in Girl of Lore. So yes, it's spooky. Yes, there's monsters, but ultimately it's about belonging and it's about these friendships and relationships, that the family relationships, the friend relationships, maybe a little bit of a romance, it that you struggle with when you're a young teenager. So I'm really excited about this book. And on the launch day, April 21st, I'm doing a big event with another friend of mine who is also a children's book author over at Scholar and Scribe, which is an indie bookstore in Trilith in Georgia, which is it's like in Fayetteville, Georgia. So it's from 6 to 8. So if anybody is listening and lives in Georgia, come see me. Scholar and Scribe, 6 p.m. We're gonna do just a conversation about writing and Girl of Lore, and it's gonna be really fun.
Yay. Thank you
Yay.
so much, Melanie. This is a treat for me and I'm just soaking it all up. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's really fun to talk about it. When I wrote the book, my kids were teenagers, and now to talk about it as my kids are older, they're grown, and so even to think back through all of these things, it's really fun to think about the way that I raised them, and then the things even that we're still applying to this day. That's really fun.
I hope you feel proud of the way you've raised your kids because, I mean, not only have you successfully kept them alive, but you are helping me keep my kids alive. So kudos.
Well, I did a lot of EMDR to be able to truly believe I am a good mom and I know it's true and I believe it.
This episode is sponsored by EMDR.
Yes, totally. It's so good.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Book Therapy. For all the details about the author, the book, and what we talked about today, please see the show notes. As always, if you enjoy this podcast, please leave us an honest review on Spotify or Apple. This helps get the word out. And even better, if you know of a foster adoptive family and you think this episode will encourage them, go ahead and send them a text because not only will it brighten their day, but it will give them another resource, another tool as they are doing the hard work of loving and serving vulnerable children. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We will see you next time.